Good morning. 6:02, 6:03, Wednesday morning. I want to talk about rational thinking, rational thought. So as I'm known to do, I often have pretty good discussions with those who I engage with, namely friends, people who, um, manifest actual deep thought, beneath the surface, talking about subjects and topics that have great ramifications and great consequences. I enjoy those type of conversations. That's the quickest way for me to open up, is to talk about, or namely ask a question that makes me have to think, or a group discussion that makes everyone think. Rational thought. It was something that came up, and I started asking myself the question. This was like 2 days ago, but I've been thinking about it, lately. What is required to think rationally? And first of all, let's start with the definition, which we'll get to later. Actual definitions. To think rationally, or to think with rationality, is simply put, and I'll kind of paraphrase, that is being based on or agreeable to reason. Rationality implies the conformity of one's beliefs with one's reasons to believe, and of one's actions with one's reasons for action. Well done, Google. Well done. Rational thought. It is my opinion that the best way to describe or to compare rational thought in terms of how I would use it is the word wisdom. Wisdom. Many different definitions, but my favorites would be anything to the effect of the ability to discern the difference between two different variables. This person versus this person. What is the difference? This opportunity versus this opportunity. What is the difference? This color versus this color. This situation versus this situation. This job versus this job. This environment versus this environment. This branch versus this branch. What is the difference? When I wake up, I try to practice to the best of my ability. How do I discern different during this day? It is my argument that when you proceed with wisdom in mind, you will force yourself, you are required to slow down in terms of your decision making. I don't know anyone who's capable, and there's one caveat to this. I don't know anybody who's capable of proceeding with wisdom while moving very quickly. Unless, well, there's two things in my imagination. There's two things. Unless you're being proactive, for one, meaning you know the direction you're going and you're planning ahead. So all your steps, all your decisions, all your moves are pre-planned already. Or number two, you're well studied. Well studied. Perfect example of number two would be Warren Buffett, being that he reads 6 to 8 hours a day of just consuming content, consuming, situations or this situation that happened in the 1940s, with Coca-Cola, or, that they proceeded in this manner. And then obviously he can be proactive with the knowledge he gains because he's well studied. It's very important. Reading, consuming information, consuming the information on the other side of the aisle, bipartisan learning, being willing to hear the opposite side of what you currently believe leads to rational thought, being open-minded, not saying yes to everything, not believing everything you hear, but asking questions. I challenge you, and I'm gonna get into the rest of my notes, but I challenge you to, whatever time it is where you are, it's 6 a.m. here, but proceeding with your day, in every conversation you have, try to engage from your end after you've listened to them. Try to only respond with questions. Questions. Not responding with solutions, not answers, not trying to guide them and direct them and do this and go here and here's how you fix this. It's something I have to utilize when it comes to, engaging with opposite sex relationships. Not trying to fix her, not trying to push her in, all right, so I heard you out. Here's how you fix it. No, respond with questions. What else happened? Tell me more. They didn't have your size. It takes patience. It takes the willingness to listen, the willingness to give your time. That's how I define love, is giving. Sacrifice. So, thinking rationally, wisdom, discerning difference. Not being naive to this one thing makes this more expensive. This is why this is different. Being able to recognize that this matches versus this matches, not just the price, but the quality, the convenience. So it is my argument that one cannot think rationally without the ability to define something properly. Definitions. This is why I started off defining rationality. Definitions matter. This TV is distracting. Definitions matter. It's my argument that your direction will control your definitions. Your direction. If you order fish at a restaurant and they bring you a snake, are you upset? The question that will come up is, who gets to define fish? Is it you or the other person or the chef or the person who took the order? If I order something with no peanuts and you bring me something with peanuts and I'm allergic to peanuts, who gets to define that this doesn't have peanuts? Who gets to define the ingredients? Who gets to define a peanut? What I'm pointing to is there has to be some form of absolute in order to proceed properly. The question will come up, are there any absolutes in the universe? Are there any truths that do not change? I made a video a while back on this topic, and the two things I kind of arrived at were pain. What was the other one? I know pain was one of them. Probably time. But pain is definitely one of them. And pain is what keeps us alive. It's also part of my notes, which I'll save that for later. I'll try to keep this in order. But there has to be some form of absolute. Laws could be a point of reference in terms of something that does not change. We are grateful. As humans, we are grateful that gravity does not change. Would you imagine waking up and gravity was heavier the next day? For some of us it is, based on our eating habits. But imagine that, the sun was closer the next day when you woke up. Like physically closer in the universe. Well, first of all, we probably wouldn't be here. Thankfully, gravity does not change. Thankfully, gravity is absolute in nature. The ecosystem of what is now Earth will be a lot different if the sun or Jupiter were closer or further away. Think about that. We rely daily on absolutes, on things that remain true, balance, order. I'm getting away from my notes, but this tangent is beautiful. It satisfies me. Just imagine that we were no longer on top of the food chain in this universe. Just think how quickly things would change. Life as we know would change if the absolutes that we relied on, that we probably have not consciously yet identified, immediately changed to being subjective, to being, ever changing. Just think about that. Your direction controls your definitions. If I'm going to LA, how do I define transportation? It depends on what you value. Do you value speed Do you value time? How long it takes me to get there? Do you value comfort? How you feel along your journey? Would you rather take a train car and take the scenic route and enjoy the scenery of the United States? Would you rather, walk because you value fasted cardio or fresh air? You want to consume as much vitamin D as possible? And you want to build your legs up and just, you want to take a road trip, take your car, take your bike, set a world record? If you're going next door, how do you define transportation? Your direction, where you're going in life, will help you define your everyday, struggles. The words that you must define in your life to make your decisions based off. One good example that kind of confuses me, and I would imagine it exists mostly in the vegan, community, is the word speciesism. Speciesism. And I'll go ahead and define that for you. It's interesting, while at the same time confusing. So, speciesism is defined as the assumption of human superiority leading to the exploitation of animals. And it's most often used by the vegan community and the vegan activists, claiming that no animal is superior to another animal, and we should treat them all the same, and cows should not be eaten while dogs are worshipped and cuddled with and loved upon and petted. And I started to believe it at first. I started, because if you follow this channel long enough, you'll know that I went vegan for 40 days on this channel. Interesting stuff. Go search that video. Interesting stuff. I was vegetarian for a while. Interesting stuff. But yeah, I was like, is speciesism a thing? So I decided to think rationally. I started asking questions. I was like, let's think about this. If all animals are treated the same, equally, is it safe to say that a vegan or someone who believes in this, this concept of speciesism and follows the laws thereby and the beliefs therein, do they kill flies? Do they call exterminators? Do they swat mosquitoes? There's inconsistencies, not in the word, but in the actions. The actions don't match. Because I would imagine if you had a raccoon walk through your house, you have issue with that, unless you made it a pet. It's certain things like that it just, I don't know. It's not for me to decide. But these are just questions that help me think rationally. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm asking questions. And that's really the whole point, is that you don't have to follow a belief system, but you need to question it. You need to ask a question. Say, where is this founded? And how do we live this out? How do we practice this? Definitions control your belief system. Definitions control your belief system. I always speak to a worldview, how you need to have questions to the 4 basic questions of this universe, of your life. Where do I come from? Origin, cosmology. How did I get on planet Earth? It's a simple question, elementary question. And then you need to follow it to its logical conclusions, meaning I can't just believe the first thing someone taught me in elementary school. Something blew up. The textbooks would tell you, and hear me, the textbooks will tell you that nothing blew up. And then they'll go on to define nothing. This video is not going to be about this, but think about how nothing in a textbook will be defined as something. Maybe that's too deep for you at 6 a.m., but something is something, and nothing is nothing. Nothing is what rocks think about. I'll leave that alone. So, four basic questions. Where do I come from? What gives my life meaning? How do I tell right from wrong? And where do I go when I die? I made a video on is there an afterlife? Check that video out. It's a very interesting question. Right from wrong. Who gets to decide that? Because if I asked you, how do you tell right from wrong? You're going to give me a certain answer. I base it off of the way I was raised and how I feel in a moment. If you watch that Duke game, you'll see that, they define right and wrong differently when they get angry. A little sidebar, anger, doing anything out of anger is most likely wrong. You're not thinking rationally when you do something out of anger. When I get angry, I think. I was at a restaurant in Philly on Saturday. And it was just a lot of foolishness going on. Just a lot of foolishness in the restaurant. I'm looking at my table, and it's a Mexican restaurant. So typically, when you go to a Mexican restaurant, they bring you free chips. So I'm like, bruh, y'all know why I'm here, bruh. Why would y'all play with me this late in the day? Y'all know why I'm here, bruh. Bring me that queso, bruh. And bring me them chips to accompany. So I'm sitting at the table, and I'm looking at other tables. They have chips and like 3 different sauces, and I'm like, this is interesting. Interesting development. So I speak to the waiter, and I'm like, bruh, why would you play with me, bruh? And I was like, bruh, bring my chips, bruh. He brought my chips, and I was like, where's the sauce, bruh? Like, do I need to throw hands in this environment? Is that necessary? So he brings me back a little thimble of, I don't even know what it was some green concoction. And at that moment, my energy began to rise, and I was like, all right, we're in a different environment, first of all. So you can't go off. Not that I'm known to do, but I begin to think. So I started analyzing the environment. I'm like, all right, so this table has this. They have 3 different sauces. Their containers are they don't have any thimbles full of, first of all, I asked the question, how am I supposed to dip a chip this big into a thimble? And so when the waiter came back, I started asking him questions. I'm like, all right, so are chips complimentary or do I have to pay for them? Do I have to order them separately? He said you have to order them separately. All right, cool. Is this the normal container that accompanies the chips that I'm supposed to dip into it? Because there's no physical way to do this. Anybody with eyes and proper vision can see this chip does not fit. So is this the normal container that accompanies the chips? He says no. All right, cool. You're just incriminating yourself by answering these questions. And then he brings the check, because obviously I'm on 10 at this point. He brings the check, and I said, why did you not charge me for these chips separately if they are supposed to be ordered? And he said, oh, no. And he gave me some indistinct response that made 0 sense. And at that moment, I realized, it's too much. It's too much. And so I decided how to get revenge. Do I not tip him? Do I make him work another 10, 20 minutes and then, leave after I paid my bill? Do I make him fetch me water for the next hour? I started thinking, and I decided upon an interesting solution that I didn't really receive the reward I wanted, but I knew it would sit with him for a while. I left him a $20 tip, and I left a note on the receipt that said, I did not enjoy my visit here. And I left it at that. Now, it's not a hugely profound, action or, statement I left, but they contradict each other. I'll leave it at that. But that's what I speak to when I say sometimes throwing hands and going off and speaking loudly and calling a manager, and it's not going to change my experience. That's not going to change anything that just happened. Obviously, I probably could have got away with not having to pay for it, but I was past it. Doing anything out of anger, like spazzing out, going off, usually does not end well for you. Keep that in mind. Thinking rationally will require you to stop and think about the destination that you're going towards with your current actions and your future actions. What happens after I do this right here? This is where wisdom comes in. When I do this because of this variable, whatever injustice may be, when I do this action right here, what happens afterward? What happens to me, my family, my job? How does it end for me? And then based off that, predicted location, you adjust your current situation. You adjust your current actions. Say, all right, so let me just change this out. Let me fix this. Let me sit on this for a while. Let me think. Let me ask some questions. Let me ask some questions. Let me do some research. Let me think. Thinking rationally. Order. Order. Order is the proper arrangement of things and people. That's Dr. Mike Murdoch's definition. Order is the proper arrangement of things and people. One of the greatest things I appreciate about the Pentagon and working there, and it's very much so magnified when I go to the mall that's like one metro stop away, is the amount of order that is presented in the Pentagon versus a mall setting. Not that the mall is bad or worse or better, but they're different. And it is so beautiful to behold. And I love it. I have so much time to make this video. you work at the Pentagon and it's just it's clean. It's orderly. Everyone pretty much looks the same for the most part. Everybody's haircuts and shaved and looking professional, mostly in suits and dresses and power suits and power ties and what have you, and heels. And it's beautiful. Everybody's in uniform, various uniforms around the branches. You have every branch represented. Not the Coast Guard, I guess. I haven't seen any coasties. But it's the Department of Defense. It's a beautiful thing to behold. It's the amount of order that's represented. People in their proper place, buildings in their proper place, doors and walkways and the hallways clean, and restaurants, even though they're secular and they're civilian-based restaurants, there's still order. The food court is separate from where you work. You have to go to the food court, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So you go to the mall and, nobody's walking in a straight line. There's no separate, walkways as far as this group is going this way and this group is going this way. It's just chaos. It's trash on the floor. It's not clean. It smells different. It smells different. There's no uniformity. There's no uniforms outside of, the different establishments where you might work for fast food and y'all have a uniform. Outside of that, it's different. There's people yelling at different levels of octaves and volume levels, and decibels, and it's different. It's interesting. And I was telling my boy, we went there, what was it, last Friday or Thursday, and we were sitting in the mall and we were eating lunch, and I was like, man, this is so much different than the Pentagon. And it makes me appreciate, not miss, I don't miss the Pentagon, but it makes me appreciate the Pentagon for being different. Now we're back to wisdom. They're just different environments, different purposes, different authorities in place. Order. I always make the argument to those who are changing environments. If you're joining the military, you're going from civilian to the military, the first step before you proceed to a recruiter's desk, to a recruiter's office. Now, I'm not saying completion of order, but you need to address the chaos. At least make a note. This is out of place. This is out of place. I am not in shape. I can't do this. I can't achieve this. I'm failing here. I need to study over here. You need to address the disorder in your life. My car does not run. So if they gave me orders today, how will my family get around when I'm not here? How are my bills getting paid when I'm not here? When I don't get paid for a month because I'm waiting, for my account to get set up, my military pay record to get set up in the sessions. How do I pay my bills when I'm not getting paid? Who's taking care of my children when I'm at basic training and tech school? People keep forgetting about tech school. You don't immediately go home unless you're probably reserves a guard. And that's only if you have a gap between training. These are simple questions that make you address the disorder in your life. And the whole purpose of order is so you can enjoy something without having stressors coming from disorder. Peace. That's the whole point of order. That's why you can drive down the highway and there's not an accident every 5 minutes, unless you live in DC or Philly. The whole purpose of order is so you can recognize disorder. God, that's so simple. And when you have order, you know when something's out of order. That's why in the military we have all these different regulations based on our uniform and our appearance and our dress and our protocols. So when a civilian enters the environment, we know you don't nothing is labeled in the Pentagon. There's no, oh, come here to see this person. No. But we'll know when somebody's out of place when you're lost. You don't know how the system works. I'll leave it at that. You don't know how to get around? You got a place. Your uniform's askew. You're not shaved. You don't got shaving waiver. Your hair's too long. Your hair's on your shoulders. Makeup's wrong color. Mustache is extending past the edges of your mouth. I violate that one almost constantly. Order is so you can recognize what's out of order. Also, it works in reverse. When everything's out of order and you place something in order, now you experience the dopamine effect. Now you experience pleasure because any progress towards order creates pleasure. That's one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Mike Bernard. Any progress towards pleasure creates, or any progress towards order creates pleasure. Hence why you get excited, you lose 1 or 2 pounds. You fit those jeans. Progress. That's why we like to track things. That's why you should track things. So that's why you should have a to-do list, mainly so you can know what you need to do and you can visualize it, you can see it, and it stays on the breast, it stays on the forefront of your mind. But along with that, so you can mark it off and get that dopamine effect. I got a whiteboard right here that I constantly update. I'll erase it and start over, and I constantly have to visualize. I like to wake up. Like what was just playing on TV was just a simple video of a compilation of just my future, things I want to see in my life. The life I want to live. I visualize it. I see it. I watch other people working out. So when I go to the gym, I can remember what I saw and what I want to, have in my current life. I want to visualize it. Something that goes along with order is pain. Pain, another absolute that we tend to recognize very quickly. Pain is proof that you have violated the law of order. All this has to do with thinking rationally. It's beautiful. It's poetic. Pain is proof that you have violated the law of order. You will experience pain in your body, in your life, in your finances, in your relationships when you violate the law of order. Something is out of place. Something is wrong. I was listening to a debate a while back, and Richard Dawkins likes to posit this a lot, which violates his own argument, first of all. But anyway, he mentioned why is it that children are starving and being killed, and why are there mass shootings, and why are all these bad things happening? Why is there droughts and famine and starvation and homelessness and injustices? Why? It's a good question. It's a question I share. But a good potential answer to arrive at would be, pain is proof that something is out of place. Pain is proof that there's a solution. Pain is a notification. It's a moment that you need to stop and ask a question. Pain is a sign that something does not belong. Something is missing. Something is going on here that we need to address. Imagine if you had no pain in your body. I believe the acronym is SIP. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically where your body, the human body, does not experience pain. Imagine going through life and you could not experience pain. You guys probably see my finger jammed in the door December 22nd in my car door. On the way, I'm walking in the church and I'm closing my car door, and somehow my finger gets left in it. I don't understand how that happened. This is the leftover scar that now I have no pain anymore. But in that moment, I had great amount of pain, huge amount of pain. I'm sitting there just on 10, just, bruh. I'm like, bruh, what happened? Why, bruh? Imagine if I didn't feel it. Imagine if I just walked away from the car with my finger still in the door. I could have broke a bone possibly. Notice how I have zero lack of movement. It's still scarred and a bit, no, it's probably not swollen, but imagine going through life and not being able to feel a car hit you, not being able to feel a broken bone. Love is only possible if there's a possibility of pain to compare it to. Love is only possible if there's a possibility of loneliness and lack and rejection to compare it to. You know, feeling fulfilled and full and satisfied and satiation is only possible if there's a possibility of hunger. So we have pain in this world, obviously. That's the default. We're born into pain. We're born into hunger. We're born into crying. We're born into lack. It happens. But there's a possibility of better. That's why a lot of people kind of frown upon capitalism. But capitalism is proof that if you're obedient to a principle, you can have what other people have. That's why I follow it. That's why I follow people who have money. Because automatically you're born without money. Automatically. You're born without. But there's opportunity for better. There's opportunity for change. And that only exists in a world where we have both, where we have the potential for both. So pain is interesting. Pain is proof that you violate law of order. You have a headache, order will be to go get proper amounts of rest and hydration. That's the place of order is doing the things that are necessary to remain in that place of homeostasis, a place of order, a place of calm. Pain is good. We need pain. It keeps us alive. And the last thing I wrote down, emotion. Emotion. It's kind of a well-known thing, and I'll think carefully about how I state this. It's kind of a well-known thing that emotion can be frowned upon. It can be. And we like to compare it to logic. We like to think that, thinking clearly and thinking logistically and pragmatically and do this, you get this end result. That's most of the time, that's how I think. A friend told me recently, you get to a place where you get so one-track minded that you forget that there's these other variables at play that you need to address. When I think about relationship, I can't use science to measure love. How? How do you use mathematics to measure sacrifice? Giving one's life for another person. The ultimate expression of love. I would die for my mother. I would die for my mother. There's no way you can express that reality, love, sacrifice, with mathematics. How do you do it? What's the equation? What's the algorithm? It doesn't exist. There's no way you can use mathematics to express one's love and define love. So emotion, feelings, dare I say, they do matter. But you must pair it with rational thinking and reasoning. They must go together. I'll explain this with my current life. I work DTS. I work in finance. DTS. So it's the Department of Transportation Systems, something like that. It's basically how we get paid for our travel. If you go TDY, if you go in deployment, you will be paid via DTS. It's a system comparable to Venmo, except you're just putting a voucher in there. Someone's doing the calculation, somebody's verifying that this is authorized based on the regulation, and we pay you. You get a check or a direct deposit. Well, along with that, when you get overpaid because you violated the law of order, the regulations, I come in the picture. DTS debts. Now, I have the regulation to go off of. I have the regulation that enforces and, supplies me with my actions, the things I'm responsible to do, when it comes to overpayment or underpayment. That's what I'm responsible to do. Now, there are a couple ways to go about this. Now, a DTS debt is different than a travel debt. A travel debt being PCS related. I'm traveling from this location to this location. This is my new base. I got overpaid in this manner. Those are different debts. Those debts are paid back over 12 months. Well, my debts typically are negotiated. They're spoken about. They're a topic of discussion. Now, the emails I send out say that you have 30 days to pay back this debt. 30 days. Now, do I enforce that? No. No. We talk about it. That's where the reasoning, that's where the emotion, this person has a family, or, this person, can't afford to pay 80 grand back in the next 30 days for whatever reason. Just an example. Meaning that when I proceed on my day-to-day actions, there's a right and wrong way of doing things. And then there's a reasoning aspect where I have to include my humanity in the picture, where I think about how would I feel if I was in this situation? What kind of empathy would I like to receive if I was in this situation? What do I want as a person, as a human? I always think about this. A lot of you know that I'm not exactly satisfied with my current career field. I'm able to do it well, but I don't enjoy it. It is what it is. Well, along with that, I experience customer service just like anybody else. Maybe not in the military environment, but when I go to a fast food place or Chipotle or whatever, I have to encounter customer service just like anybody else. So I'm in the business of customer service, yet I still have to adhere to it as well when I go out to other businesses. So when I get a certain level of distaste from someone who's working, I pick up on it. I notice it, and I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy, getting thrown around and get sent here and hurry up, man, and do this, and why didn't you do this, and how'd you not know about this? You go to Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A, you notice the difference. That's wisdom. We all have that. Think about that. Wisdom, nobody thinks about wisdom in like the same realm as, CEO, private jet, lavish lifestyle. Nobody thinks that it's cool, but yet we all use it. We all use it. We know the difference between Popeye's customer service and Chick-fil-A's customer service. They're different. So I think about that, like when I go to work now and I'm like, all right, so am I going to be Chick-fil-A today or Popeyes? That's more of an emotional argument based on experience, not so much, the laws and the ones and zeros and the binary, of doing these actions to get a certain desired result, although that does play a major part. They go together is what I'm saying. Reasoning, rationality, logistical thinking, pragmatic, actions and belief systems based on a desired result must go well, and they do go well with emotion and intuition and how you feel in a given moment and how another feels in a moment and empathy. They matter. So rationality. This video's been going for 40 minutes. Good Lord. Rationality. Here's a cool thought. So beware that your current belief system does not take you to a place that one day you will wake up in a place of regret. Meaning that in your current place, you probably have a way of thinking, you have a way of doing things, you have things that you believe in, and your actions reflect it. What you do is what you believe. So if you look at your current actions, what you do, the time you get up, the time you go to bed, what you eat, all that is going to, if you reverse engineer, it's going to go back to a belief system. It's what you believe in. Be careful that what you believe, the philosophy you follow, does not lead you to a place that you're going to end up in a place of regret, where you look back and say, for all those years, I was wrong. Meaning that you need to constantly adjust and question your belief system. I'm not saying throw it away. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying you need to make sure that what I believe is right. It's righteous. It's absolute in nature. It does not change. It's not going to be wrong based on this variable changing. This over here is going to be wrong. Now I got to redo this. I don't know why I finance this at 50% interest. I thought this was cool. I thought this was trendy. So I followed this trend. I followed this person, this influencer. I thought even my stuff. Question it. Try it. Do your own research and compare it. We're all just people living in this world. One thing I noticed when I go to Times Square or just any major city, I'm out in a large public gathering. I'm like, why are these people so cordial? Because if you go to Twitter right now, you'll find anger and all these different random emotions. But now in public, people seem to just be like nice people. Just regular old, It's interesting. Just be careful of that. You're probably raised in a certain environment. You grew up believing a certain way. Your parents taught you to believe, or you may have had experiences that may have, made you think a certain way, and they put you in a certain direction and a path, and now you do these different things because you believe them. You think they're right. But are you sure? Question I always ask myself, ask, atheists, is there a God? It's a question. It's not a statement. Is there a God? Well, let's try this regret thing out on it. What happens is if there is one? What does that mean for us? Doesn't mean anything. Would that change your actions? Would that change your belief system? Which God? It's just a question. It's a question. If there was a God and you died, would you have regret? Shout out to Christopher Hitchinson. I think that's his name. Christopher Hitchens. World-renowned atheist. He's recently passed away. But I'm pretty sure he's no longer agnostic or atheist at this point in terms of his belief system. There's no agnostics that are dead. You believe one way or the other. You know for sure whether or not, that's not what this video is about, but you get the point. Don't live your life believing something all the way through your entire life, the entire dash between the day you were born and the day you die. And you end up at the end, you realize I was wrong for all those years. I believed this and it was wrong. I thought this was cool and it was just a trend, and now I'm stuck with this end result. I got all these different tattoos and it's no longer cool. I thought gang banging, and I thought, fighting random people and recording everything and doing this and trying this challenge and this challenge. I thought all this was cool, and now I have this end result and it's not. Now it looks stupid. I got a butterfly with. I'm done. I'm done. That's the video. Rational thinking. It'll get you a long way. Wisdom will preserve you. Wisdom will preserve you. You can live a long life, but you can be miserable through that the entire life. They speak about how, especially in the, when we're speaking about evolution and creationism, and we're talking about, vestigial organs, and we don't need this organ. Well, that's fine. Cut it off. You don't need your eyes. For what? You don't need your arms and legs. You can live without your arms and your legs. But how will your quality of life be while you're still alive? You can be a vegetable and still be alive. But how's your quality of life? The point of wisdom is to get you from point A to point B in one piece, whole, in a place of order, in a place of peace, in a mind that is, I can sleep at night. I'm not constantly dealing with chaos. That's the point of wisdom. That's the point of rational thinking. Making your decisions based off something that's absolute in nature, something that's not going to change tomorrow. Be sure that when you make your decisions, they're based on wisdom, rational thinking, absolute truth. That's the video.